So, what mindset does that take to get there? You got to have, a want to, number one. You got to believe that, no matter what, I'm going to find a way. That same mindset, man, I transitioned into real estate. When I got out, I was like, man, I want to be the best. Every day I'm going to find a way to get better. And I don't care who's in front of me, I'm going to find a way to win.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, this is Augustino. Athletes thrive on a competitive energy, so it makes sense that some would look to the world of commercial real estate after leaving pro sports. I would even say that having an ambitious former pro athlete as your advocate can make all the difference in the world. Well, today's guest, he's a former NFL player and he's found his passion in commercial real estate. As the CEO of Onyx Capital Investments, his goal is to help investors attain better than average returns on their money by investing in commercial real estate in emerging markets. He is also the host of Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast. And with all that, I'd like to welcome Will Smith to the show. Hey, man, thanks for coming on.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you bringing me on. I'm super stoked to be on the show today, man.
Yeah, excellent. It's going to be great. But before we go on, if you like what Will has to say, you can reach him via his website at onyxcapitalinvestments.com. And of course, if you like our content, please don't forget to leave a comment and rate the show. Finally, if you text the word freedom to 202-410-4202, you'll get our free ebook, The Bulletproof Guide to Finding a Broker. Okay, well, go ahead and tell the listeners about how you got your start in the world of real estate, or even how you got your start altogether.
Yeah. Well, as you know, man, I played in NFL, and while I was in the NFL, I was, always thinking about, what's going to be next after football, because I didn't want to become one of the stats of, broke, filing bankruptcy within 2 to 3 years after you leaving the league. So I've always been forward thinking in that regards. And while I was playing, I started buying some duplexes and townhomes, and I started to get the bug. And all of that started because somebody gave me this purple book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And once I read that, man, I was like, wow, this is powerful. And, I felt so much like that's what I was being taught when I was growing up, go to school, get a good job and make a good living. And once I started buying real estate, I started seeing I had passive money coming in, and I was like, man, this is the play. So I was sold after that.
Yeah. So, and you're doing this while you're playing in the NFL then? You're going off buying duplexes and stuff like that?
That's correct.
Cool. So what sort of things did you look at before? Like how did you actually select those assets? Were you looking at your local market? Were you looking outside of your market? And like, how did you actually organize all that in terms of your team and all that?
Yeah. When I was, while I was playing, I was, familiar with East Carolina University. That's where I went to school at. Go Pirates. And, I knew that this was a good rental market, college town. Got the university, we got the hospital here, and I was like, well, we're always going to have demand here. So I knew some realtors in the area, and I reached out to them to help facilitate the team building process with the property managers, and through other connections, I found lenders in the area. So I built it out kind of organically through the relationships I had.
So you're doing this, and then you finally leave the NFL. Okay, so you get out, and then you just decide to transition entirely to the world of real estate. Yep. So what was some of the things that you encountered at first? I mean, obviously, it took a very different mindset to be a player in pro sports versus what you're doing today, right? I mean, I would imagine. I mean, you have to still have the same winning attitude, but the mindset might be a little different, right?
Yeah, well, I would say really the mindset really doesn't change. Less than 1% of guys that ever pick up a football make it to the pros. So, what mindset does that take to get there? You got to have, a want to, number one. You got to believe that, no matter what, I'm going to find a way. And that was my thought process, man. No matter what, every day when I played in the league, it's like every day I'm going to get better, and every day I'm going to earn my spot. Because I'm telling you, the NFL, it stands for not for long, and it stands for that for a reason. Guys, man, every day you got guys coming in there trying to take your spot. And I was that guy when I first came in, and man, I bust my tail. I came in as a undrafted free agent. I didn't get drafted. I thought I was. And this was the year of the lockout. So I'm sitting here kind of wondering, like, dang, what's going to happen? I didn't get drafted. Should I keep working out? Should I try to go find a job? I didn't know what to do. And, I bust my tail with the Washington Redskins. I made their 53-man roster as an undrafted free agent, which is really, really hard to do. And, that same mindset, man, I transitioned into real estate. When I got out, I was like, man, I want to be the best. Every day I'm going to find a way to get better. And I don't care who's in front of me. I'm going to find a way to win. So I would say the mindsets was very similar, man. You got winning mentality, and that's what you're going to bring to whatever you do.
It's interesting you should say that then. So let's take a step back. When you were doing pro sports, what sort of things did you do to build that mindset? Because I think that for many people to even get into, like, without even being pro athletes, they're afraid to sometimes take that first step, right? They're afraid to get into a duplex or a fourplex, or it seems very risky to them, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But I mean, for you to do what you did, just like you said, I mean, in your case, it was do or die. I mean, these are guys that are literally looking to cause you physical harm if it means they could get your spot. What sort of things did you have to do to overcome some of that?
Yeah, man, it really comes down to every day waking up with the mindset is, no matter what, I'm going to win. You got to believe in yourself before anybody else will. You can't fake it in football, man. Like my coach used to always say, the film don't lie. Whatever you put on the film is going to be evaluated, and you either won that play or you lost that play. So it really comes down to, man, just absolutely believing in yourself no matter what, and that's how you create that mentality of winning, and then just pushing yourself. When I was training just to make the starting roster at East Carolina University, man, I had to put in so many hours outside of what was already been done. I had to lift extra weights, had to do extra sprints. I had to do extra pass sets and run blocks. It's just putting in the extra little things, and when you do that thing consistently over and over, it builds a mindset of, man, I've worked too hard not to make it. And that's what it really comes down to, man.
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part is you have to put in the work to be an elite athlete, and that takes, I mean, it takes a lot of effort. I mean, I think the older you get, the harder it is, right? I mean, it's I mean, I can tell you right now, I mean, my days of boxing are certainly very different from today. I do CrossFit, and certainly we're very, very different.
Oh yeah, but CrossFit, man, you got to be a beast to do CrossFit. I'm telling you.
Yeah. But well, that's a whole other discussion.
Right, yeah. That's right.
But what sort of things did you do in terms of like materials or books, aside from the Purple Book, of course, that we all know and love? What else did you do to help build that mindset of winning, right? When you were in the pro sports versus even what you're doing today, or has it changed at all?
Yeah. Well, when I was getting ready, I seen the writing on the wall, man. I knew I didn't have much longer in the league. Messed my back up, and I was like, oh yeah, dog, you ain't got but so many more years left. And I just started, man, just tuning in to what's available. A lot of people think, it's really hard to learn all this information, but it's really not, man. You got podcasts, I plug those in constantly. You got YouTube, YouTube University. So if anybody really wants to learn, they just got to get out there and look for the information. You can get on Google and just search, whatever terms you're looking for, whatever it is around real estate that you want to get into, it's right there on Google. So it's really no excuse at this point not to be educated in what you're trying to get done. And what you find is the more time you put into learning a particular subject, the more confident you're going to be speaking on it. So that's where I felt like, I put the time in and I got the confidence around real estate. So that's what made me want to just jump in with both feet, because I really believed in what I learned about how to invest in real estate.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like you also went all in too. So not only did you have the duplexes while you're still in the league, but now you're a commercial broker. So now you're transacting these deals. You're putting them together, right?
Right.
So talk a little bit about that. So how did you fall into doing the commercial thing? Like, did you know about that when you were still playing, or did you realize that after the fact?
No, this was one of those things where I realized it after the fact. Even apartments, while I was playing, I didn't even, I didn't comprehend that you can buy apartment complexes. It was a foreign object to me, which, I bring it back down to ignorance of not, taking time to dig into the podcast and learn it. But once I learned it, I realized, man, residential is not where it's at. You can make some money with residential, but if you want to be able to get in the deal, add value to it, and exit out of it with a nice profit, or refinance with a nice profit, then I realized that commercial was where it's at, and then that's what I jumped into, commercial real estate. And I understood it. I understood how to evaluate it, and I had a lot of past athletes that I knew from the NFL that looking for opportunities. So I just started getting out there looking for deals, man.
Excellent. All right. So, and that's the thing though, too. I think for many people, they try to make that transition. And what sometimes happens is that they feel like they don't have the wherewithal to do it. They don't have the knowledge, maybe they're not confident enough, that kind of thing. But I think with you, you took the time to train, to study, to practice, right? I'm guessing, like, what sort of things did you do to overcome some of that aspect? Like when you're going off talking to people, I think in a way you're kind of like, you're already famous, so to speak, and that you're
Yeah.
a former professional athlete. So people at least pick up the phone when they see your
Yeah.
name. But what sort of things what sort of things did you have to overcome though? Right. I mean, I'm assuming you must have run into something.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the biggest challenges you face, I'm just talking to my pro athletes at this point. One of the biggest challenges you face when you're transitioning from professional sports into whatever career that is you choose to do, people still view you as an athlete, NFL player, offensive lineman, Willie Smith. So you have to, leverage that, of course, because that's part of your brand. But really did take the time to learn. With me getting into commercial real estate, one of the ways that I found best to show my knowledge was to take a CCIM course, 101. That it really taught you all of the analysis and how to really break down a investment property and see where the real money was at. So that's one thing that I did that really helped me separate myself, and I'm still working on taking the other 3 courses to get my designation. So that's what I did.
Tell me a little bit about the markets that you're looking at right now. So are you looking at cash flow markets, appreciation markets? What is your general preference these days?
Yeah. Well, I'm in North Carolina, and North Carolina is an appreciation market. You got markets like Raleigh and Charlotte where they're really hot. Everybody wants to be there because of the population growth, the job growth, the diversity of jobs. I mean, those cities are booming right now, and everybody wants to be there because of that. But what that does is it pushes cap rates down, and it makes it more expensive to get into the market. So I'm looking here, but I'm also looking at some of the secondary and tertiary markets to find some better opportunities where price per door is a little bit less, and there's growth in that market. So that's kind of what I'm doing as well to kind of help find opopportunities right now.
And now that you're doing this, though, now that you're in the game in terms of commercial brokerage,
Yeah.
so do you think that gives you an advantage then when you are reaching out to other brokers and you're telling them what you're looking for? Like maybe talk a little bit about what your education so far has done to get you in front of those other types of deals.
Yeah. Man, this education has really helped me out in regards to when I'm reaching out. I'm not just reaching out as some below Joe, but I'm reaching out, and since I'm a broker, I'm going direct to owners. I'm not really contacting other brokers in the market, looking for deals, because they're really going to look at me as a threat more as somebody that's going to close a deal. So I pulled a list, man. I joined CoStar, and I'm on the phone every day, man. Reaching out, talking to potential sellers, and seeing if they're willing to sell, and what that would look like. So I'm on the phone myself every day, man, and I'm looking for stuff from Charlotte all the way back to where I'm at now in Greenville. So yeah, that's what I do, and that's how I'm finding my opportunities.
But it gives you an advantage though too, right? Because you get to leverage some of the NFL sparkle, so to speak.
Yeah. I would say, man, because I played in the NFL, when I'm calling these guys, somebody that's just starting out, just learning, they learned everything, and now they want to get on the phone and start talking. Somebody that owns 100, 200 units, they're not going to really take your conversation that serious if you say, yeah, I want to buy your property. But when I tell them, hey, I played in the NFL, and I got a group of investors that, professional athletes behind me, their ears perk up and they really want to hear what I got to say at that point,
Right,
So,
right.
and then the icing on the cake is when you get in touch with somebody that's an actual football fan, and it's game over after that.
Well, yeah, you show up with a signed autographed football. Have you done that before, by the way?
I haven't. I'm
Right.
going to definitely do it though.
That stuff works. Helps you seal the deal.
Yeah.
So now, if you were talking to someone that was starting out, though, okay, someone that was trying to do the same thing you're doing. I mean, in some cases, you're actually cold calling. You're not even warm calling. These leads are like cold leads.
Right.
Do you have any recommendations for these guys? Like, what exactly should they say to some of these people to really get their attention and hopefully get a deal from them?
Yeah, well, to the guys that are just getting into it and they're trying to, establish, their self, the first thing it comes down to is, and it goes back to what I said earlier, is, educate yourself, really understand what the heck you're talking about, because they might start throwing out things like, internal rate of return, cap rates, cash on cash. And, if your ears start, about to blow up because you start hearing this stuff, they're going to know you don't know what you're talking about. And they're not going to take you serious. So educate yourself, number one. And then, learn the market. What's going on in the market? What is the price per door? What kind of rent growth have the market seen? Really start educating yourself on those type of things. So then when you're having a conversation, you can really talk about what's going on in the market, and you're not just hey, will you be willing to sell? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing though, too. It's like, it's not only some of the things that you're applying, but I mean, I'm assuming you have newbies reaching out to you. People have never done a deal before.
Right.
And they're looking to talk to you, and maybe they don't know who you are at first anyway. So are these some of the triggers that immediately tell you it's like, oh yeah, this guy's not gonna be able to close?
yeah, pretty much, man. When I hear and from a broker's perspective, when I hear somebody call me and say, hey man, I'm looking to buy a multifamily in the area, I'll say, okay, great. That's great. What are you looking for? And then I really just listen to see how they talk. And if they just start saying, well, I just, a good deal, 20 unit, what's a good deal, So that's how you really kind of separate yourself, man. When you can really talk the jargon of commercial real estate and you can speak it with authority, then that's when brokers are going to take you serious.
That's right. Well, I mean, and part of the thing is that when we cover this in our program as well, and our training programs, is that you never just open up and say, hey, Will, this is Joe. I'm looking for a 10 cap. That's the first thing they say. And you immediately shoot yourself in the foot because, a 10 cap implies that you're looking for a D-class asset.
Right.
You don't want one of those. That's not.
That's right. That's
not good. Are there any other dead giveaways that tell you that you're dealing with a newbie when you're first talking to them?
I'm trying to think, man. You may hear somebody say, "Hey, man, I matter of fact, man, I've actually had somebody reach out to me and say, "Hey, look, this is my first property, and I want to buy a 80 unit deal, and I never done a deal before. They don't have a team yet. Like, well, what does your team look like? Well, it's just me." Okay, yeah, you're not serious. There's no way you're going to do that on your first deal if you don't have the backing behind you, man. So yeah, that's one of the things I listen for too, man. What kind of experience they got?
Well, yeah, and I think when you just said something that goes a long way is the team itself.
Yeah.
If you don't have a team at all, and you're calling on brokers, and the broker asks just like what you said, hey, who's your team? And you have nothing to say, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna lose that deal. You're going to lose that connection. And
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now I don't want to turn people away and say, I don't want you listening to this podcast and say, well, dang, I can't do a deal. I haven't done one yet. Because like, well, dang, which one comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? So, what you do in that scenario is find somebody that's already in the market that you can add value to and tell them you're going to find a deal. So now when you talk to the broker, hey, I'm partnered with, XYZ company. They have 1,000 units in the marketplace and, we're looking for another deal. So now you're coming from a place of, man, I got experience behind me. I got a team that knows what the heck they're doing. Their broker is going to take you serious at that point.
Yep, that's right. I mean, and that's everything right there. It's really building up that credibility and leveraging your team's experience to really helping you get over the line. And that part is huge. Absolutely huge. Yeah. We mentioned that so many times on our podcast and our show. It's But I think the hardest part though is actually putting that team together. That's the hardest thing. That's the
Yeah,
hardest thing. Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. So now tell me a little bit about the next 5 years for your business. I know that you're currently working as in the brokerage space. How do you see the next 5 years playing out, given where we are right now in the market cycle, and how you see things happening over the next little while?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not no economist, but I definitely think this COVID recession is going to have some kind of impact on the marketplace. Just from me cold calling every day, talking with owners, I've talked to people that wants to sell their property, but they're afraid of what the market is. The buyers that I'm talking to, they want to buy at a discount, because they say, well, hey, it's COVID. I want a discount. And the seller's like, no, I want pre-COVID numbers. So it's at like a wash there for most of the people that I've been talking with. But I think you're going to feel the effect of this probably for another 1 or 2 years. But I think it's still going to be sales going on.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be the first quarter of next year where things start to really ramp back up. But I do think it's going to be a little bit slow for the next 6 months or so.
I think that's the same sort of thing as well for most, at least larger owners anyway, that have stabilized assets. We're not really under that much pressure to sell. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'm not selling any of my big assets at all right now. I'm keeping them all. I have no intention of selling anything at this point,
Right.
until we plan on scaling upwards. But for the time being, yeah, man, I'm not selling anything right now in terms of anything large. When I say large, greater than 100 units, we're keeping everything else. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Will, you can reach him via his company website at onyxcapitalinvestments.com. Next time you make your next property play, get a former all-star athlete like Will on your real estate roster and knock that deal out of the park. I think that's the best way to do it. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the Bulletproof Cashflow podcast.